What's up, nerdlings? Beefy here, and today we're going to learn how to fly the GX. In this video, we're going to cover what is a GX and why do we do it, entry parameters for the GX, execution, and some common student errors. Training rules apply to this maneuver since it's sort of aerobatic, so before you grip and rip, remember that you need to have at least 6,000 feet AGL, you need to be able to maintain clear of clouds throughout the execution of the maneuver, you need 3 statute miles of visibility, and you need to have a discernible horizon. For your health and safety, this video is a guide for the T6 Alpha only. Don't try and replicate these flight conditions in any other aircraft because there's a chance you'll only get to do so once. Similarly, the block altitudes referenced here are specific to Vance Air Force Base local procedures, so make sure you reference your local block altitudes if you're visiting this channel from some other base. So what is a GX? The GX is a preparatory exercise. The point is to make sure that you're executing an effective AGSM or anti-G straining maneuver, and you're not suffering from any physiological deficiencies that would prevent you from maintaining consciousness during high-G maneuvering. That's super important. With very little exception, if you black out during aggressive maneuvers in this airplane or most other platforms, no one's gonna save you. Do not half-ass your GX or AGSM. So let's talk about setup. Right now, the aircraft is at about 16,500 feet, putting along at 170 knots. That puts us in about the bottom quarter of the high MOA advance. The recommended airspeed in the 248 is 200 to 220 knots minimum, which I personally believe is pretty poorly worded. Most IPs will recommend you fly between those two airspeeds, and to bias yourself towards 220 knots in the high area where you have less torque and the air is thinner. Technically, however, you can fly faster than that, but it's never really necessary. A reason that it's not a great idea is because the maneuvering speed in the T6 Alpha is 227 knots. Maneuvering speed is the speed at which you can use full control deflection to symmetrically over-G the aircraft if you happen to go all Lenny from Of Mice and Men on the stick. The 11248 describes the GX as a level to slightly descending turn within 10 degrees of the horizon. So wherever you choose to be, give yourself a little buffer below you to prevent any sort of errant MOA departure. The GX should last about 4 to 5 AGSM breathing cycles, and each AGSM breathing cycle lasts about 2 to 3 seconds. In practice, this translates to about 180 degrees of turn in the T6. It can be longer, but generally it doesn't get shorter unless you're doing crappy breathing cycles. For a trans sortie, the 248 recommends approximately 4 Gs. For advanced aero and formation, it recommends between 4 and 5 Gs, so maintain at least 4. I don't know why some dum-dum wrote 2 equally vague approximations in subsequent sentences. So let's get on with this thing. When you're ready to start your GX, slap the PCL to max power and get your airspeed to at least 200 knots. To speed this process up, you can pitch the nose 10 degrees nose low, and at max power you'll gain 50 knots and 1,000 feet of altitude loss. Remember to level out before rolling into bank. When you have your airspeed, it's courtesy to prompt "Ready for Gs" to your instructor, but it's not technically required.
Ready for Gs?
Begin to roll into bank and increase backstick pressure to drag your nose across the horizon. Your backstick pressure will have to increase proportionally with your bank. It's a simultaneous roll and pull. Many people find the TAS antenna an effective reference to drag across the horizon to make this a level turn. Depending on your sitting height, you might drag it a little above the horizon or a little below, but it's the easiest reference to see. The 248 recommends starting your AGSM prior to the onset of G, which is legit, but not really necessary below about 2 Gs in practice, unless you want to be the guy doing the AGSM in the pattern. For an effective AGSM, flex your calves, quads, glutes, and core against your G-suit to maintain pressure with the air in your lungs against the back of your tongue against the roof of your mouth. After 2 to 3 seconds, sharply drop your tongue to quickly exhale and inhale, and hold that pressure again. Think of it like squeezing yourself from the inside like a meat balloon to force blood in your arteries to stay up in your nugget longer.
Yeah, 4 Gs, feeling good.
When you're doing your AGSM, don't flex your arms or your shoulders. This doesn't actually help, and it'll only serve to tucker you out. Continue to increase bank and backstick pressure until the G meter reads at least 4 Gs. This many Gs will actually cause the airspeed in your aircraft to decrease, so you'll need to increase your backstick pressure to maintain 4 Gs over the course of the exercise. With some practice, you'll acclimate to what 4 Gs feels like, and you won't have to cross-reference your G meter as frequently. After 4 to 5 breathing cycles, begin to let off backstick pressure and roll out to wings level simultaneously, gently easing off the pressure in your lungs. Confirm on the G meter that you have 4 Gs feeling good with your IP in the back. If you're not feeling good, as in you started to gray out or you feel poopy, you can try another GX, or return to base and try again tomorrow. It's totally a judgment call. If you find yourself waking up, confused, or lost, congratulations! You knocked yourself unconscious. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Declare an emergency. Return to base immediately. Go see the flight doc. Alright, now that that's over, let's talk about some common student errors on the GX. The most obvious one is going to be poor breathing cycle control. Typically, students cycle their breathing way too quickly, resulting in lower than nominal interabdominal pressure, leading to an ineffective GX. To fix that, count potatoes while you're trying to stay conscious. Bank angles are always an issue. We didn't really talk about lift vectors in this video, but you should be aware that increasing your bank will decrease the lift vector pulling the plane up. The way we increase this upward vector is by increasing G. The required amount of G to maintain level flight exponentially increases as bank approaches 90 degrees, at which point no amount of chutzpah will keep the nose from falling. So to prevent climbs or egregious descents, drag a visual reference across the horizon like we talked about earlier while increasing your bank, and pull to keep that reference on the horizon until you reach 4 Gs. Lastly, a common problem early on is to set and forget the stick. If you just set a stick position, you're probably not going to hit the exact number of Gs you were hoping for. Subsequent adjustments are going to stair-step your G loading, which is going to make your GX and AGSM less effective even if you get to 4 Gs. If you don't adjust the stick after you set it, your G is going to decrease as your airspeed decreases. The long story short is just dynamically increase your backstick pressure to make the plane do what you want it to do G-wise. Now we'll go back and watch the GX in real time. Pay attention to the pacing of the breathing cycles and the dynamic backstick pressure required for a successful GX.
Ready for G's? I have 4 G's, feeling good.